to have someone who's friendly there in particular. And he had also put out some report that Trump had appreciated. But, some of these people that he fired had been really critical of different Biden actions. The Inspector General at the Veterans Affairs oversaw multiple investigations of how the Biden administration handled the agency's troubled effort to build a massive electronic health record system. Another one, Trump appointee at the Interior Department who was fired, had released a lengthy investigation concluding that when the U.S. Park Police led law enforcement officers into a crowd of mostly peaceful protesters, that he sort of backed up Trump's version of events there. You guys remember the whole Lafayette Square situation? His report said that it was about a pre-planned effort to build a fence around the park to protect officers, and not because Trump had sicked them on these peaceful protesters. So you would think that would be something Trump would like, but nevertheless, that person is fired as well.
Yeah, and Chuck Grassley responded to this and said there may be good reason the IGs were fired. We need to know that. If so, I'd like further explanation from President Trump. Regardless, the 30-day detailed notice of removal that the law demands was not provided to Congress. Jonathan Turley, by the way, agrees with that. Jonathan Turley, professor at GW Law, somebody who has agreed with a lot of Trump's decisions.
Yeah, he's like a regular Fox News kind of a guy.
I think he's a contributor. Yeah. He's willing to go out on a limb for some of Trump's decisions, but not this one. And I think it is because with these Senate-appointed positions, it is so clear. And what's interesting is that you can kind of pick up on scuttlebutt about policy priorities in the conservative world. These IGs, we have to have a plan. I don't know if this was in Project 2025. I don't remember it. Maybe it is and I'm forgetting. But
yeah.
I'd actually never heard that there was a plan to gut IGs. And it seems like Chuck Grassley hadn't heard that either, as somebody who would have a significant interest in it, because he says there may be good reason the IGs were fired. We need to know that if so. John Barrasso, the Senate Majority Whip, told Fox on Saturday, quote, sometimes inspectors general don't do the job that they're supposed to do. Some of them deserve to be fired. And I'm sure, by the way, that that's true. But I don't know what the evidence is. I haven't heard people talking about the evidence when it comes to these particular confirmed positions. And one of the interesting things also is from an anonymous source in the Washington Post story that actually makes a pretty good point, which is that IGs do what Trump says he wants to do, which is cut down on waste, fraud, and abuse.
That's right.
And even if some of these particular IGs weren't doing the best job of that, it now, by just gutting them right off the bat without going through the formal process, you are undermining. Whoever is confirmed in the future is going to look like a political actor in a way that they wouldn't have before. And they shouldn't look like political actors. Let's say an IG comes out with a great report on the EPA, and this is somebody who's appointed by Trump, confirmed by the Senate. Well, it's just going to be, they're going to lack the credibility that they otherwise would have.
Yeah.
Commenting on the waste, fraud, and abuse at the EPA. So this one could really come back to bite Trump.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I also think it's possible that, he's doing so many things so quickly that it's just hard to focus on any one, particular outrage. And so you're right, down the line, however things unfold, it's possible that it does come back to bite him. It's also possible that everyone just capitulates and forgets and moves on. And, I think that's kind of what he's betting on, and paying attention to which direction things go in is really important. Because again, put actually C2 up on the screen. This is some of the Republican reactions. You mentioned Chuck Grassley, probably the most noteworthy because he's a rock solid, conservative. No one call him, I don't think, a rhino, right? I'm really correct about that. Yeah. He pointed out this was illegal. Senator Susan Collins expressed confusion. You're not confused. You know what's going on here. Lisa Murkowski loaded the lack of notice, expressed worry over the abrupt dismissal. Obviously, the Democrats came out very upset about this. We could put their reactions up on the screen. Next, Chuck Schumer characterized it as a chilling purge, a preview of the lawless approach. Jerry Connolly labeled the dismissals as a Friday night coup and an assault on transparency and accountability. Elizabeth Warren called it a purge, accused Trump of dismantling constraints on his authority. So obviously they're being very aggressive. But, like I said at the top, just on the merits, it's important because genuinely, some of these inspectors general have done important work on behalf of the American public and on behalf of taxpayers to understand whether it was Trump or whether it was Biden or whether it was Obama before that, where there had been failures, where there had been corruption, where there had been things that had been just done improperly or unlawfully, et cetera. Am I right that Horowitz is the one who did the the Joe Biden report about the classified documents? Was that him? Or no, that was...
He did Comey.
Comey, that's right.
Yeah, and
okay.
Trump has said that he's keeping Horowitz because he liked the Comey report.
He liked the Comey report. Yeah. But in any case, I mean, they have done genuinely useful work that reporters and taxpayers rely on. So it matters for the merits. But I think it is one more indication, and we already have many of these, that Trump 2.0 is taking a truly maximalist approach. Because there's not even a fig leaf here that this is legal. I mean, the 30-day period there's no exceptions for it. You have to give Congress 30-day notice, and he didn't. So it sets up a showdown. What happens next? Do Republicans just decide, like, well, he's our guy, and we're just not going to put up that much of a fight, and we don't really want to cross him, and we're just going to accept this? What happens when, you have to, the next, whoever's going to be next has to get confirmed if their predecessor was fired illegally? Like, what does that look like? And so we're going to see how these sort of showdowns really unfold, and whether he is able to do things that are just like clearly unlawful and get away with it. Because you have this, the birthright citizenship, the executive order ending birthright citizenship is kind of part and parcel of the same type of approach. A federal court has already smacked that down and said, like, this is preposterous. This was like the most preposterous thing I've ever seen effectively. But he feels like he can effectively do whatever he wants, and the Supreme Court basically told him that that was true. So is he going to abide by this court order, or is he just going to keep moving forward and doing what he wants to do and firing who he wants to fire and all of that?
This is one of I think, the most important storylines, not just of the first week, but this is going to be significant. SNL, of all places, had a really funny sketch kind of poking fun at the Lin-Manuel Miranda millennial moment of Hamilton back in early Trump days. But Trump was like, yeah, maybe we need a king in the sketch.
Yeah.
Republicans... I came of age at a period of time when Republicans were just utterly horrified at the executive overreach of the Obama administration. And I think some of those complaints were entirely valid because there was a sort of stretching of the executive branch in a way that if you are a sort of ideological conservative, you would say these are you're usurping powers that belong to Congress, and it's actually fueling this vicious cycle where Congress just becomes more and more weak because they're punting everything over to the executive branch. Mm-hmm. So they know that they can't get it done through, for example, the reconciliation process, because it's not strictly related to the budget. And so, some of this is Trump rolling back powers that I don't think belong to the executive, but not all of it is at all. And actually, interestingly, I was looking this up while you were going through that. There was some talk about this in the Project 2025 circles, but not a lot. This was pretty low key. I think it was Public Citizen that picked up on something a couple of people that were involved in Project 2025 said about purging IGs. But genuinely, like, if that was a serious point, it was really low key. And that shows how significantly Trump is literally taking the blueprints that were drafted over the course of the last 4 years. And a lot of people thought they'd be giving those blueprints to Ron DeSantis, for example. A strict Tea Party, Freedom Caucus, like true Chip Roy style, like limited government dude. Although what's happened at the state level is testing probably some of his old ideological allegiances. But all that is to say, Trump is like just taking the conservative movement's blueprints. And some of it I'm like, some of this is, from my perspective as a conservative, I'm supportive of it. But a lot of this is significantly testing the conservative movement's actual commitment to reining in the power of the executive branch. And this is a great example of that. So how many people are going to speak out and get mad about it in the same way that they would if Obama did it?
Oh, imagine if Biden did that.
Yeah.
Imagine if this was Kamala in office right now and she had done it.
Or
had launched a shitcoin before. It's just like unimaginable.
Well, imagine if they had been, seriously, imagine if Kamala Harris had been inaugurated with the oligarchs.
Right. I know. I thought a lot.
It would have been a populist orgasm.
Right. If she was there with Zuckerberg and Bezos and Musk flanking her, then immediately doing a presser announcing basically we're going to support these people spending $500 billion, these tech oligarchs, to eliminate your jobs. That's the goal of these tech AI developers is to literally eliminate all need for human labor.